It's the Amoeba People. It's the Amoeba People. The Amoeba People.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the Amoeba People Podcast, the show where science and music collide. My name is Ray Hedgepeth, the singer-guitarist of the absurditudinally nerdy science rock band, the Amoeba People, and your host. Today, we have episode 9 of the Amoeba People Audio Cartoon. We are very excited to share this with you. Did you know that at one point in history, 1931 to be exact, that two of the greatest minds in science, Albert Einstein and Edwin Hubble, actually met face-to-face? Not only is that a great little fun fact for you to throw into a conversation at your next cocktail party, whenever those might start up again, but it's also a fantastic premise for an episode of our audio cartoon, don't you think? So we're very excited to share that with you. Before we do, I'd like to ask that you give our podcast a rating and a review on whatever platform that you listen to this on. That's how other people find out about it. And also head on over to the amoebapeople.com, where you'll find lots of great Amoeba People t-shirts and other sciencey goodness to enjoy. Okay, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, humans of all varieties, we present the Amoeba People Audio Cartoon, Episode 9.
For decades, humans have transmitted radio wave signals deep into space. Little did they know advanced amoebic life forms on the planet Crouton received these transmissions with great wonder and curiosity. The Croutonian Council voted to send their musical ambassadors on an expedition to this distant world to investigate. These are the scientific and musical adventures of the Amoeba People.
Episode 9, The General's Relativity.
In our last electrifying episode, the Amoeba People used their cutting-edge amoebic technology to travel across the globe and back in time to 1883 in order to visit paleontological pioneer Mary Anning in southern England. After accidentally triggering a landslide that buried Ms. Anning's cherished dog, Trey, the Meebs dodged a barrage of hurled stones and injurious epithets before retreating to present-day Southern California.
You absolute imbeciles!
Meanwhile, 27 light-years from Earth on the planet Crouton, in a cozy chamber of their spacious Croutonian domicile, Dr. and Mrs. People are preparing for their nightly resting period.
Oh, Bartholomew, you're doing such a fine job for the Croutonian Council. Just forget your worries for now and relax, won't you?
I'll be fine, Glopilda. It just agitates my endoplasm to think that we've been given the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to execute an interstellar scientific fact-finding mission by sending the Amoeba People to Earth, investing countless Meeb hours on research and development of the most absurditudinal technology imaginable, and the entire effort is jeopardized because General Gobsplotch insisted upon traveling to Earth alone. And now he's made a massive Meeby mess of things.
Oh, that's nice, dear. Oh, look, dear, Blobby's back from commercial.
And we're back with tonight's guest, Minister Pantolius of the Ministry of Mimes. Yes, so before the break, you were saying that... You weren't saying much of anything, were you? It's funny how...
Back on Earth, inside a sealed chamber deep within the bowels of Elon Musk's SpaceX compound, General Gobsplotch is not dealing well with his prolonged captivity.
This prolonged captivity is outrageous. I can't tell if I've been locked up in here for days or weeks. It's absolutely maddening.
Apologies, sir, but as your loyal servant, perhaps I may offer some useful information to help pass the time. Did you know that North American ground squirrels undergo an extended period of dormancy known as hibernation?
You've become so much more annoying since you started reading the Elon encyclopedia that was inexplicably delivered to our cell.
Beg pardon, sir, but I thought reading through this compendium of faux leather-bound volumes emblazoned with the visage of Mr. Elon Musk, containing a wealth of Earth-related knowledge, might be useful to the...
Silence!
Sorry, sir, but having read the section on abnormal psychology, I'm starting to become somewhat concerned that your erratic behavior could be indicative of...
Not one more word!
The General's green amoebic flesh ripples and contorts as his rage intensifies, and dozens of tiny pieces of his quivering pseudopods begin to split away and form into tiny Meeblings.
Wait, what's this? More Meeblings? These ones are so little. I've created mini Meeblings. Mini Meeblings, go forth and find a way out of here. Through the air vents, under the door, through that strange white basin full of water.
That would be the lavatory, sir, also known as the commode, toilet, the loo.
Also in Southern California, at the Combination Amateur Astronomy Lab and Music Recording Facility known as the M51 Records Laboratory, the Amoeba People have recently returned from a disastrous visit with Mary Anning in 19th century England and are performing routine maintenance on their time travel and teleportation equipment.
Well, gentlemen, it looks like the damage to the chronobender is mostly superficial. The impact from the rock thrown by Mary Anning bent the speed selector a little bit. It won't be able to play those 45s anymore, but we could still use it to travel through time.
Well, that's good news, Mr. Jordan. As painful as it was to be pelted with rocks, I found myself somewhat envious of her range and accuracy.
It is most unfortunate that our visit culminated in a landslide that claimed the life of her faithful canine companion. But Mary Anning's remarkable scientific legacy lives on nonetheless. Mr. Mosley, how is the teleporter body looking?
Diagnostics check out just fine. I've got the interior mostly cleaned up as well. Its appearance as a portable toilet seems to be quite convincing to the humans, as evidenced by the frequent deposition of waste material each and every time we leave it unattended.
Hey, a new transmission from Crouton is coming in over the hyperbolink. It looks like a firmware update for all of our absurditudinal technology, and there's a message from Dr. People attached as well.
Let's see that message, Mr. Jordan.
Greetings, Amoeba People. Per usual, the scientific and musical information you've been sending back to us here on Crouton has been tremendously helpful in our ongoing effort to understand the Earthlings and their natural world. I must say, enlisting the musical talent of the female human in your last transmission was particularly a nice touch. Brilliant idea. Simply marvelous.
Gee, it usually doesn't go on and on like this about the songs we perform.
However, the main reason for this message is to request that you divert from your fact-finding mission for a moment in order to carry out a bit of reconnaissance. As you know, General Gobsplotch has also traveled to Earth from Crouton with the intent of coming to your aid. Although quite valiant, I'm afraid his departure was rather impulsive and ill-planned. As of yet, we don't have any confirmation of his well-being, and we've recently received some fragmented hyperbolic data from his ship, seeming to indicate that it is currently being disassembled. I'm reluctantly sending you the last confirmed coordinates we received from Gobsplotch's ship, the even less likely. The Croutonian Council is determined to re-establish contact with the General, but I don't want you to place yourselves in any undue risk. Please investigate cautiously and report back as soon as possible. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, the Quartermaster has included a firmware update to your absurditudinal equipment. Given the seemingly elevated risk to Croutonian personnel on Earth, we've added some security protocols to prevent improper use of the devices. You won't notice anything different other than some extra processing before you're able to touch-activate the equipment. Anyway, the Croutonian Council is on my case, so go have a look around at those coordinates as soon as you can.
The circumstances of the General's landing sound unsettlingly familiar.
Indeed. It seems as though General Gobsplotch and his ship may have fallen victim to the same group of miscreants that descended upon the scene of our own arrival.
A group of thugs led by the infamous
Elon Musk takes the last bite of a Mars bar and tosses the empty wrapper onto the floor behind him. He looks down through the window of an elevated observation room somewhere inside Hangar 19, the top secret sector of his spacecraft construction facility in Hawthorne, California, known as SpaceX. In the wide, clean room below him, a small army of scientists and engineers clad in white Tyvek suits are poring over dozens of tables. Each table is covered by an assortment of strange-looking components.
Excellent work disassembling the alien spacecraft, everyone. Now, sort of make sure that every last piece is cataloged so that we can hand them over to the Advanced Projects Division, as soon as possible. Have you made any further progress with that propulsion module?
Yes, sir, Mr. Musk. We believe we've isolated the alien ship's drive system. As far as we can tell, the reactor remains fully functional.
Excellent. Fine work. Send it over to AP right away. This advanced alien technology opens up infinite possibilities for Musk Enterprises. First order of business will be jump-starting my Mars program. With this new propulsion system, we should be able to go back and forth to the Red Planet with ease. The rest of the harvested technology will undoubtedly help accelerate the establishment of my Mars colony as well. I'll have the world eating from the palm of my hand. All of humanity will remember the day that Elon Musk revolutionized space travel and changed the course of human history. I'll be the most famous, wealthiest, and most powerful man in the world.
Back at the M51 Records laboratory, the Amoeba people are preparing to head out in search of General Gobsplotch. All right, Meebs, the Croutonian Council needs a report back from us as soon as possible, so we'd better get a move on. Mr. Mosley, is the teleporter potty finished with the firmware update yet?
Unfortunately not, Captain. The display is still showing a rotating pinwheel. I'll go see if Beckford can give us a ride.
Hey, good idea. It's probably still too risky to be seen out and about in the improbable with Musk's goons still searching for it. I'll bring along the chronobender just in case. Hopefully he'll finish updating soon in case we end up needing to use it.
A few minutes later, Beckford and the Meebs are traveling down the highway in Beckford's white 1996 Chevrolet Astro van at a modest 55 miles per hour.
Wow, Griffith Park, huh? Are you sure we're going to the right place?
Those are indeed the coordinates we received from Dr. Beeple.
Okay, just checking. Don't worry, I have a Thomas guide in the back in case we get lost. You know, Griffith Park is actually home to a really cool observatory. Back when it was built, Southern California was really ideal for observing the stars. There wasn't nearly as much of the light pollution and smog that we have here today. Colonel Griffith, the guy who came up with the idea for the observatory, was inspired after visiting the Mount Wilson Observatory. I guess you could call Mount Wilson the granddaddy of Southern California observatories. Do you guys have granddaddies on the planet Crouton? Anyway, some really groundbreaking astronomy took place at Mount Wilson. Most notably, a guy named Edwin Hubble made observations there that ended up having a huge impact on modern cosmology. But anyways, back to Griffith Park. The observatory was built there in the 1930s with the goal of making astronomy accessible to the general public. It has this really cool Art Deco design that transports you back to the early 20th century.
A short while later, Beckford brings the van to a stop in a dirt parking lot nestled in the foothills overlooking Hollywood, California.
Amoeba people, welcome to Griffith Park.
I don't see the observatory you were telling us about.
Oh, you can't see it from here. I think it's just over that hill. Griffith Park is actually pretty huge as far as municipal parks go. There's some museums here, a zoo, an amphitheater. I think they've even got a merry-go-round somewhere.
Mr. Jordan, what's coming through over the remote interface?
We're getting close, sir. Looks like the location is inside that cave up ahead.
Okay, Let's keep it down. Everyone be alert for any sign of General Gobsplotch or his ship, and be careful. There may still be danger nearby.
Impressions in the soil seem to indicate that several large vehicles were recently here.
Yeah, those are some pretty decent-sized tire tracks, all right. And look at those long grooves leading into the cave. Looks to me like something pretty heavy was dragged out of there.
Mr. Jordan, why don't you take a look inside? Mr. Mosley, see if you can find any other clues out here that might help us.
Affirmative. Copy that.
After conducting a thorough search of the area, the Amoeba People and Beckford head back to the Astrovan empty-handed.
You know, I don't like to brag, but I did earn my tracking merit badge back when I was a Cub Scout. Now, drag marks and tire tracks aren't exactly the same as woodchuck footprints, but the principles are the same. It looks to me like the ship you're looking for was hauled off just like your ship was after you crashed in that field in Hawthorne.
Agreed. So what happened to General Gobsplotch?
Perhaps we could see for ourselves, provided the chronobender is finally finished updating.
Mr. Jordan opens the rear door of the Astrovan and begins to examine the Amoeba People's record player time machine, the chronobender.
I don't see the pinwheel anymore on the display. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. I'll program it to take us back, what do you think, a few days?
Yes.
And, oh, this is new.
Welcome to Absurditudinal Operating System version 1.1. Your Neuralink touch activation of this device will now include a mission objective authentication scan. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Wait, so your equipment could tell who you are and what you're planning to use it for the instant you touch it? Wow! I guess I won't be borrowing it anytime soon to go back in time and tell myself not to ask out Betty Shingleberger in the 9th grade.
That's the idea. Not to keep you, specifically, from using the absurditudinal tech, but to prevent misuse should our equipment fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah, I get it.
Shall we, gentlemen?
The Amoeba People each place a hand on the turntable time machine.
Onward!
We're sorry. Usage of this device is restricted to primary mission objectives issued by authorized representatives from the Croutonian Ministry of Science. If you feel you've reached this recording in error, please review your mission briefing and try again later.
I suspected this might happen. Fascinating. It seems as though the new safety measures will prevent us from using our equipment to investigate the General's disappearance, or from doing anything that deviates from our original diplomatic and scientific mission parameters.
I'm sure General Gobsplotch can handle himself. I mean, the guy founded the covert Croutonian Commando Corps, after all.
So I guess this concludes our business here in Griffith Park.
Indeed. Let's head back to the improbable and report our findings back to Crouton.
Well, while we're out this way, we should stop by the observatory. Oh, I have an idea. Remember Mount Wilson, the other observatory I was telling you about?
Yes.
Oh, man, I think you guys are really going to like this. So back in the early 20th century, Mount Wilson was a really important research facility. I mean, it still is, but back then it was really important. For quite a while there, Mount Wilson was home to the biggest telescope on Earth, the 100-inch Hooker telescope.
Why is he...
What's so funny?
Nothing. Anyways, the 100-inch telescope really is a marvel. Probably one of the most significant scientific instruments of all time. Here on Earth, that is. They named it after the local businessman who forked out the cash for the telescope's mirror. I mean, this piece of glass is huge, over 8 feet in diameter.
Wow.
The slab they made it out of weighed like 9,000 pounds.
Whoa.
Impressive.
I know, right? So, needless to say, after its construction, this massive telescope really opened up new possibilities in cosmological research. The guy I mentioned earlier, you know, Edwin Hubble, he spent a lot of time making observations at Mount Wilson. His work resulted in some pretty groundbreaking conclusions. First off, he figured out that some of the little blips that other people had been seeing through less powerful telescopes turned out to be entire galaxies. Isn't that crazy? Before Hubble, people thought our own Milky Way was pretty much the only galaxy there was. So we went to work observing and classifying all these new galaxies and coming up with some ideas as to how they evolve over time. He also ended up proving that the universe is expanding.
Well done.
So what I'm thinking is, now hear me out. There was a really famous meeting up at Mount Wilson in, I think, 1931 or so. Hubble was visited at Mount Wilson by none other than Albert Einstein himself. Einstein was the guy who came up with general relativity, the theory that revolutionized the way we think about the universe. I mean, this guy was so smart that his name is pretty much synonymous with genius. He originally thought that the universe was static, but once the evidence of an expanding universe started piling up, he was forced to reconsider. Einstein was in the process of amending his brilliant theory at the time, thanks in part to Hubble's work, so I can only imagine what their conversation must have been like. What I'm getting at is, why don't we visit the Griffith Observatory another time? Mount Wilson isn't that far away, and you guys already have your record player time machine in the back there. Let's head up to Mount Wilson, and you guys can go back to 1931 and meet Edwin Hubble and Einstein. I'd say that qualifies as a primary mission objective. What do you think?
Beckford, you're indispensable. To Mount Wilson, Meebs.
Yeah, onward!
27 minutes later, Beckford's Astrovan exits the interstate and begins the long ascent up the Angeles Crest Highway towards Mount Wilson.
You smell that? My olfactory receptors are detecting thermal breakdown of synthetic rubber components, possibly located within the vehicle's engine compartment.
Mine as well. Is something burning?
Nothing to worry about. This mountain road is just a little steeper than what the Astrovans used to. We'll be fine. I have a fire extinguisher in the back.
After a modestly disconcerting journey up the winding mountain road, the group arrives at the Mount Wilson Observatory parking lot.
All right, we'd better put your chronobender in this backpack. It probably looked pretty weird carrying around a record player at an observatory. I mean, to be honest, 3 guys dressed in matching yellow short-sleeve shirts, brown polyester pants, brown ties, and horn-rimmed glasses already looks a bit out of the ordinary.
I don't. What's wrong with our
I thought we have
attire?
pretty
Isn't it?
hip threads.
I thought it was fine.
I'm just kidding. You guys look great. Okay, so the 100-inch telescope is just up the hill a little ways. I'm pretty sure that's where you'll find Hubble and Einstein. You can't see it from here, but you'll know it when you do. There'll be 2 big old white domes. The 100-incher is in the bigger one.
Is there anything else we should know before meeting Albert Einstein and Edwin Hubble?
Oh man, I'm so jealous that you guys get to meet them. Let's see, what else do you need to know? Einstein will be the guy with the mustache and crazy hair who speaks with a German accent. Hubble will probably be the tallest guy there, and in the pictures I've seen, he's oftentimes smoking a pipe. I guess that's about it. When I called Dr. Hindemith back at the lab to confirm the date of the meeting, he told me it took place on January 29th, 1931.
After configuring the chronobender accordingly, the Meebs place it inside Beckford's backpack and exit the Astrovan.
Oh, I forgot to tell them that Edwin Hubble was also an accomplished heavyweight boxer. That's probably not relevant to their visit, but I'm sure they'll get a kick out of learning that when they get back.
The Amoeba people try to remain inconspicuous while traversing the parking lot and nonchalantly stroll into the tree line. Once sufficiently hidden from view, they activate the chronobender and travel back in time to January 29th, 1931. The Meebs quickly stow the chronobender in their backpack and begin to trudge silently through the trees. After stealthily making their way through the grounds of the Mount Wilson Observatory, they finally arrive at the unmistakable dome containing the 100-inch Hooker telescope. Before approaching the dome's door, the Amoeba people pause and talk amongst themselves in hushed tones. Okay, Meebs, here we are. I'm not entirely sure how to properly initiate this interaction. Truthfully, we're only marginally competent at 21st century human etiquette, and things are very likely quite different in the previous century.
Indeed, Mr. Hedgepeth. We'll be interrupting an important meeting of some pretty serious scientists, so we'd better tread carefully.
Don't worry, gentlemen. I'll take the lead on this one. I think the best option we have is the direct approach.
Agreed, Mr. Jordan. Remember, Meebs, Hubble is the tall one, and Einstein is the one with the anomalous hairstyle.
Onward!
With stiffened posture and an elevated chin, Mr. Jordan confidently opens the dome door and ascends the stairs to the telescope platform with purpose, Mr. Hedgepeth and Mr. Mosley following closely behind.
Greetings! We are the Amoeba People. We're musical ambassadors from the planet Crouton. As part of our fact-finding mission, we've come today to speak with you gentlemen, whom we understand to be some of the most significant scientists in Earth's history.
Inside the dome, the small group of men dressed in wool suits who had been engaged in conversation at the base of the 100-inch telescope turned to gape at the bizarre-looking trio's imposition.
What in the world?
Don't you worry, Birdie boy. I'll handle these chowderheads.
Now look here, Jack. I don't know who you think you are, but you've made a big mistake bursting in here like this.
No, you don't understand. Mr. Hubble, I presume? We're musical ambassadors.
Take that, greaseball!
Mr. Hubble, please. If you'll just give us a moment to explain.
Quit bumping your gums, or I'll give you the business as soon as I'm done with your friend.
Mr. Mosley, deploy the awkward assault. It's our only hope to save Mr. Jordan.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hedgepeth.
The humans inside the telescope dome begin to experience a sudden creeping sense of discomfort as Mr. Mosley bombards them with unseen psionic waves. He has initiated the awkward assault, his special amoebic ability reserved for only the most desperate of situations. As the amplitude of the awkward oscillations increases, the humans begin to squirm and back away from the Meebs. Edwin Hubble's fierce scowl fades into a look of confusion, and he takes a step back from the battered Mr. Jordan, who nearly collapses before being caught by Mr. Hedgepeth. Mr. Mosley steps toward the scientists.
Sorry about that, sirs. I mean, doctors. Some of you are probably doctors, right? Excuse me, I'm sorry, you must be Mr. Einstein, right? I'm just guessing because of your unusual hairstyle. Not that there's anything wrong with your hair.
The anguish caused by the presence of these wretched men is so immense that I fear it has begun to warp space-time.
Each of them thoroughly horrified and profusely perspiring, the humans briskly file out of the dome and scatter in all directions as they attempt to escape the unbearable awkwardness.
Wow, I didn't fully realize how powerful the awkwardness can be when I give it all of my effort.
Excellent work, Mr. Mosley. We'd better get Mr. Jordan back to Beckford's van right away. He isn't looking good.
Let's go, buddy.
The Amoeba people exit the telescope dome and return to present day using the chronobender. Moments after rematerializing in the 21st century, Mr. Jordan slumps to the ground. As the other Meebs carry Mr. Jordan back to the Astrovan, he is visited in his dreams by a vision of Edwin Hubble and Albert Einstein, who, for some reason, are dressed to the nines in tuxedos with tails, top hats, canes, and tap shoes.
Einstein and Hubble, you know we're double trouble, and we like to burst your bubble for fun. We know that you were hootin' for old Mr. Newton, but sure as shootin', there's a new game in town. Gravity waves put old ideas in their graves, and when the light nears the moon, it just bends right around. Oh, Einstein and Hubble, you know we're double trouble, and we're bound to burst your bubble for fun. Just like that, lickety-splickety, don't get too persnickety, now that general relativity's in town. Hey, Albert, what do you think of these moves?
Ooh, very nice there, yeah.
They're the bee's knees, ain't they?
Bees don't have knees. What are you talking about?
Well, what do you think?
Well, relatively speaking, you're good, but you're no Einstein.
Ooh, they don't teach you that in Oxford.
Aha!
We'll solve that mystery on the double. There's just no team like Einstein and Hubble.
Whether or not the world is prepared, E still equals MC squared.
So long, Sir Isaac Newton, take that wig and start a scoot. Now that general relativity is it's the new game in town. General relativity is the new game in town.
Will Mr. Jordan make a full recovery after the savage beating inflicted by Edwin Hubble? Will General Gobsplotch and his army of mini Meeblings finally escape their imprisonment at SpaceX? Will Elon Musk successfully repurpose the advanced amoebic hyperbole drive from General Gobsplotch's ship for his own relentless ambitions? Find out next time on the Amoeba People Audio Cartoon! Thank you so much for listening to the Amoeba People Podcast. The audio cartoon was written, produced, and edited by the hardest working Meeb you'll ever meet, Ryan Mosley. Story by Ray Hedgepeth and Ryan Mosley. Our special guests today were Mike Uribe, who played Albert Einstein, and Nick Bruno, who played Edwin Hubble. Thank you so much to those amazingly talented guys for helping us out today. All music was written and performed by the Amoeba People, as usual, with a little help on Einstein and Hubble from Mike and Nick. And You'll have to ask them if that was actually them tap dancing. And we also had a couple of public domain songs in the episode today. We had Little Bits by the Johnny Dodds Trio and Don't Go Away Nobody by George Lewis and his New Orleans Stompers. Don't forget, after this season is complete, we're going to be releasing an album of all the awesome music you've been hearing on the audio cartoon this season, so stay tuned. And we hope you will join us next time on the Amoeba People Podcast. Until then, onward!